Toxic in-laws, they think my dog is stupid, but I'm not leaving him for a family who disrespects my privacy. After a year of biting my tongue and enduring emotional manipulation, I'm ready to stand my ground. Will my boyfriend finally have my back this Easter? Hello. I need advice regarding my situation with my boyfriend. I am a 26-year-old Polish man who has been in a relationship for a year with my 25-year-old Dutch boyfriend. We reside in the Netherlands, where cultural differences significantly impact our experiences. Although both of our countries are in Europe, I observe that I hold a more traditional family perspective. Recently, I have been struggling to connect with his parents, which has been quite challenging for me and our relationship. To be honest, I did not particularly like them from the start, but I wanted to make my boyfriend happy, so I attended all the family celebrations and tried to impress them. However, I have always had a sense that something was amiss. I usually enjoy conversing and finding it easy to meet new individuals, but with his family, I tend to become quiet after a while and do not seem to enjoy being present. Upon reflection, I realize that I feel overwhelmed and drained of energy in their company. It appears that each family member holds a unique opinion and feels compelled to assert that only their viewpoint is correct. This leads to emotionally charged discussions where everyone speaks over one another, voices are raised, and the atmosphere can feel quite dramatic. Often the topics of conversation are trivial, and I find myself thinking people have more significant problems than this. Additionally, some family members share stories where they take pride in belittling others, which bothers me, such as being rude to a customer service representative for asking what I consider simple questions. Furthermore, when we announced that we would be traveling to my country for Christmas, one family member remarked that it was stupid. Although the mother quickly corrected her, it was still disheartening to hear. There have been other comments like referring to stupid immigrants. While those remarks are not directed toward me, they are offensive since I am also an immigrant. My partner never speaks out against these comments, leaving me feeling unsupported. As for my interactions with his father, I do not have much to say. Engaging in conversation with him feels robotic. He rarely displays emotions, maintains a neutral stance on most topics, and is not as dramatic as the rest of the family. There is not much to discuss. However, I have observed numerous toxic traits in his mother that immediately put me on high alert. She insists on always being right, is very vocal, and needs to know everything. She bombards me with questions, but I sense her motivation is more about gathering information than genuinely wanting to understand me. I do not feel safe enough to open up to his family, as it seems they are attempting to win me over with gifts, yet I struggle to trust or rely on them. Despite these feelings, I continue to visit them to support my boyfriend. However, in January, I began reevaluating my relationship with them. Since family holds great significance for me, I expressed to my boyfriend that something must change. He was already aware of my feelings towards them. I considered discussing my concerns with his parents since they continually question why I am so quiet. However, I realized that sharing my reasons might not lead to any improvement and could possibly cause more damage. When I spoke to my boyfriend, he advised against this approach. Additionally, my dog, a very sweet and well-trained animal who is not aggressive, is not allowed in their home. There are no allergies. His mother simply claims that she does not want her house to smell like a dog. This situation frustrates me because my weekdays are busy, and I reserve weekends for my dog. They live an hour and a half away, so each visit requires a full day. This is particularly disheartening during Christmas and other holidays when we would stay for a few days. I refuse to leave my dog behind for Christmas or any holiday celebration, as my dog is like my child. There was an incident on New Year's when we had to sleep on the floor in his sister's living room because we could not bring the dog with us. They have a 5-bedroom home and only the parents live there. In my culture, this is considered quite rude. Although my partner was aware of my displeasure regarding this matter, he did not voice any objections to them. We argued over this issue, and he eventually spoke to them after I urged him to do so. However, nothing changed. The dog remains prohibited in their house and cannot even go into the yard because he might go near the pool. My dog is well trained. If I instruct him to stay in a specific place, he will comply. Initially, my boyfriend and I had an open and honest discussion, but then he became insistent, telling me I had to visit his parents as before and leave my dog behind, even resorting to manipulation. At one point, I became angry and confronted him, asking if he advocated for my needs as fervently as he pressured me to accommodate his family's desires. He claimed he had spoken to them for 3 hours about this matter, which I later discovered was untrue, leaving me feeling manipulated. I also learned that his parents had been demanding personal information about me and my family from him. I had previously expressed my desire for him not to share my personal details with them, mainly because I do not trust them. My partner intended to use my health and childhood experiences to persuade his parents to like me more. However, I prefer that they accept me for who I am now, rather than for my past. His parents could not accept this boundary and continued to demand information, making me feel as though they were trying to invade my privacy. My partner remained silent. With Easter approaching, I have, of course, received an invitation. They proposed a restaurant in my city, which I had mentioned beforehand to my boyfriend as a possible compromise since I would not attend their home without my dog. I did not accept their invitation, particularly after my boyfriend's manipulative behavior, but I know he wants me to be there. To be honest, I do not wish to attend. I perceive his parents as toxic, they do not respect my privacy, I lack support from my boyfriend, and I anticipate I would not enjoy the visit. While I appreciate their suggestion of a restaurant as they are attempting to accommodate me, I feel deeply hurt and find myself contemplating this situation almost daily. I feel hurt and unsafe. I certainly do not want this situation to persist. Nevertheless, it appears that both my boyfriend and his parents expect me to comply with their wishes, hoping it will eventually resolve itself. I have determined that the situation concerning my dog is a deal-breaker. While I can tolerate other issues, my desire not to attend stems from both wanting to establish my seriousness and demonstrating that I will not concede. What should I do regarding Easter? How can I begin to rebuild our relationship? I want my boyfriend to advocate for me. Story 2. Trapped in a toxic marriage at 21, my husband Jay put me down with phrases like "you're not a child" after a fight. After begging a friend to sleep with him and texting an escort, he still insists it's all my fault. Now I'm pregnant and contemplating abortion, feeling utterly alone. What should I do next? I am a 21-year-old woman, and I am married to a 25-year-old man whom I will refer to as Jay. I moved to the United States with him, believing that our life together would work out, but everything has gone downhill and I feel entirely trapped. I need advice because I am struggling emotionally, mentally, and physically, and I feel as though I am losing everything. When I first arrived here almost a year ago, everything appeared to be fine. However, at this point, I have barely made any friends. I have spent time with one person twice since my arrival, and the majority of the time I am left at home alone. I do not have a car and I cannot work legally, which makes my situation even more challenging. The only routine I have is waiting for Jay to come home, but when he does, we end up fighting and remaining in uncomfortable silence. The situation deteriorated rapidly. A month after our wedding, I discovered that he had been texting an escort and attempting to meet her. However, because she was in a different city, she declined. Following that, he contacted another woman he used to communicate with, and she sent him a pornographic video. He insisted that nothing physical occurred, but I cannot say with certainty that I believe him. His justification revolves around his intense fetish, and incidentally, I am considered the wrongdoer for sharing this with my friends rather than him. Then, a month ago, I learned something even worse. In August, just a month after our marriage, he pleaded with a female friend to sleep with him while I was upstairs asleep. This revelation struck me profoundly, and I felt incredibly betrayed. He is also continuously belittling me. It could be something as trivial as a casual conversation, yet he somehow always finds a way to make me feel inferior. He has demeaned my intelligence, despite my IQ of 143. It honestly strikes me as somewhat humorous because he genuinely thinks he is superior to me in some capacity. It seems as though he needs to diminish my worth to elevate his ego, and I find it incomprehensible. I had to explain to him that humans have not existed on Earth for merely 20 to 25 years, and that dinosaurs were not exterminated by humans. An example of his behavior that stands out occurred when I asked him to assist me in finding my vape after searching for it for 30 minutes. He outright refused, stating, "No, you need to learn responsibility, you are not a little child." Whenever it involves something he does not want to do, he makes excuses and somehow twists the situation to make it appear as though I am the issue, suggesting that I am incapable of managing basic tasks. This occurs every single day. And this does not only pertain to mental abuse, there has also been physical aggression. I am not stating that he is fully abusive, but there have been instances where his aggression frightened me. On one occasion, during an argument, he pushed me, resulting in a bruise on my cheekbone. The police were contacted multiple times that day, but they never responded. I have never felt more unsafe than during those moments, and it is terrifying that I cannot rely on assistance from authorities. However, the emotional neglect is what truly devastates me. I cry and attempt to communicate my feelings to him, and he simply mocks me. I have bipolar disorder, and I have attempted to explain this to him, but he refuses to believe me. He thinks I am merely making excuses for being dramatic, and whenever I am upset, he ignores me. I do not even know how to cope anymore because every time I try to reach out, he dismisses me. Moreover, the financial strain is overwhelming. My mother was not intended to send me money, but once Jay realized she was, he began using it as an excuse for everything. He would say things like, "Ask your mother or tell her to get a loan," despite the fact that my mother is merely a kindergarten teacher and has her own struggles. It feels as though he is depending on her to resolve everything for us while I am caught in the middle of it all. He is my husband, surely he must understand that a woman needs more than just food in the refrigerator. I had a better situation when I was alone. I feel utterly lost. Every holiday has been a tremendous disappointment, and I feel incapable of enjoying the small pleasures in life. Thanksgiving was a failure because his family was not home when we arrived. Halloween was a disaster as we left the party after 20 minutes and did nothing else. Christmas was ruined by a significant argument, and we did not speak for a week. On New Year's Eve, I fell asleep on his parents' couch at 10 p.m., and he did not even wake me for the ball drop. Valentine's Day was yet another disappointment because he failed to wake me to do anything special as he had promised. Every holiday has been ruined by him, and I have expressed how much it has hurt me, but he simply does not seem to care. I do not feel supported in any aspect emotionally, financially, or physically. The only thing he has done for me is buy me food and small gifts, but that is insufficient. I feel as though I am drowning in this marriage, and every attempt I make to improve things results in failure. Recently, I discovered that I am pregnant and I am considering obtaining an abortion. I hope it is not too late. I cannot bring a child into this environment. I do not trust Jay to be there for me, and I do not want to raise a child in a marriage where I am treated in this manner. I feel completely trapped. I have no friends here, no means of leaving, and no idea how to move forward. I am definitely trying to return to Germany, but I am stuck with no way out. I do not know how much longer I can endure this. Additionally, whenever we argue, he refuses to speak to me for days until I apologize. Furthermore, he sleeps on the floor like an irrational person simply to demonstrate his anger toward me. I would never make him sleep anywhere but the bed. This is merely another way in which he manipulates me. Please, if anyone has advice or has experienced something similar, I could truly use some assistance right now. What would you all recommend as my next steps? Short version. I am a 21-year-old woman trapped in a marriage with a man who is emotionally abusive, constantly puts me down, and has cheated on me. He has texted an escort and pleaded with a female friend to sleep with him while I was asleep upstairs. He is financially irresponsible and dismissive of my mental health issues. He mocks me when I cry and refuses to help me with basic tasks such as finding my vape. Every holiday has been ruined and I feel entirely trapped. I just discovered that I am pregnant and am contemplating having an abortion, but I do not know what to do. I feel isolated, alone, and I need help. Please advise me. Story 3. Caught in a web of lies, I discovered my boyfriend wasn't actually divorced and was still living with his wife just days after a romantic Valentine's. This was all for nothing, he insisted, but I know now it's time to escape his double life for good. Would I ever truly heal? For context, I met this man about 2 years ago at work and was not interested at all. I found him unattractive. I heard he had cheated on his wife with a woman from work, and I was still healing from my last breakup. He pursued me for many months, and eventually we became close friends. He always had my back and helped me with anything. We also worked exceptionally well together. From the very first day I met him, he informed me of his situation. He had cheated on his wife and everyone knew about it. She had never forgiven him. They were in the process of getting divorced but were still living under the same roof. This was yet another reason why nothing could ever happen between us. Eventually, I started to develop feelings for him, and after some time we hooked up. We grew closer both emotionally and intimately, and he continued to tell me he was getting divorced. However, his relationship with his soon-to-be ex-wife was complicated due to the previous cheating, and she was now threatening him with not seeing his children. That should have been enough for me to walk away, but I wanted to show him patience because he made me feel like he was worth it. He pursued me daily, remained consistent, reassuring, humorous, and made plans for the future. He was everything I had ever wanted. He showed me how they were sleeping in separate bedrooms and started detailing the lawyer appointments, the conflicts over the house and the children, and eventually how they had separated. She would stay in their house while he was away for work for 1 or 2 weeks, and would move to her sister's whenever he returned to town after working for 1 week. Our connection was primarily emotional rather than physical, although that aspect was also incredible. And we would sometimes go months without being physically intimate because I wanted him to resolve his situation. I mostly trusted him because it all seemed too significant and too risky to be a lie, although I considered contacting his wife a few times to confirm, but was afraid of causing complications regarding the children. Eventually, one night, I noticed he had deleted me from his Facebook. He then told me he had argued with his wife, and she was threatening him with not seeing his children again if he did not delete all the women from work. From that point onward, I began asking for concrete evidence of his divorce, screenshots of his conversations with his ex-wife, confirmations of lawyer appointments, anything related to the divorce, which he promised to send me but claimed he was struggling to locate. A few days later, she called me to say they were still a family, and I immediately told her the entire truth. We both cried. This call took place a few days after Valentine's Day, which I had spent with him. After that, I approached him and asked if he had anything to say. He claimed she was insane and trying to sabotage us and that it was all lies. In the following days, I felt torn as they both told me different stories. Eventually, she called me again, stating she was with him and that my relationship with him was over. I asked to hear it from him, and he announced on the speakerphone in her presence that he could not lose me. I told both of them it was time for the three of us to meet to clarify the situation. We met and he left her in front of me. She became furious and ran away after telling him he would lose his children. He hesitated, so I told him we were finished and that he could go back to her. A couple of days later, I made a mistake by reaching out. I felt the need to meet one last time to say goodbye because our last meeting had been rushed. He went on to tell me he did not want to say goodbye because he wanted me and was so miserable without me. He said everyone could see it. He claimed they were over and that he had moved all of his belongings from his house and into his mother's home. He practically begged me for a second chance for a couple of weeks. I began to give in and wanted to believe him. After all, he had chosen me repeatedly. Perhaps his ex-wife was genuinely trying to sabotage us. This was a significant mistake. After a few days, my instincts began to scream that something was amiss. I ended up calling her and she revealed they had been living together for the entire past month and trying to work things out. She also sent me pictures as evidence. It was sickening. She became angry with me for allowing this to happen and told me to leave them alone. So I did. I blocked him on all platforms immediately after that call. I was heartbroken and confused. I would never get to say goodbye to him, and I was so perplexed about what his motives were in maintaining this double life just after being exposed. He has attempted to call me 3 times from a blocked number. I have not answered any of these calls, but my friend answered the 3rd time and told him to leave me alone. He kept asking her to let him speak to me, and she warned him she would take me to the police station to obtain a restraining order if he tried to contact me again. That was it. The last time I spoke with him, he said that all of this could not have been for nothing, that he was going to fight for me, and that he was ready to go to court to fight for his children as well. The next day, we were completely out of each other's lives without any explanation or closure. I know it is for the best that I do not hear from him, as my heart would want to believe his lies. However, it is challenging. I cannot help but try to make sense of it all, but I cannot. I am so heartbroken and I am unsure how I will ever move past this level of betrayal. His wife was never going to leave him, which is her issue. He will probably cheat on her again. However, I feel it is profoundly unfair that he gets to return to his perfect life as a husband while I am here just trying to cope with my dark thoughts, feeling completely alone. Any words of encouragement, advice, or analysis of the situation would be greatly appreciated. Additionally, I have learned my lesson. I will never again become involved with a man who is not already legally divorced or who has not resolved his situation with his ex-wife. Unfortunately, what is done is done. I trusted the wrong man, yet my heart still loves him and misses him deeply. I struggle with the notion of never getting to say goodbye. I know I will not reach out again because I promised his wife and I must commit to that resolution.